Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to What's Better, Raw or Smackdown, episode 20. And I can't believe I've done 20 of these. It doesn't even feel like I've done that many, but I apparently have done 20 of them. Um, I'm not going to say that it feels like just yesterday that I started doing this series because it really hasn't been. Um, but it's been about, I'd say it doesn't feel like I've done it all that long as I have. I just can't believe I've done 20 of them. It's pretty crazy. Um, So I am here to cover um, and talk about what show I think is better by reviewing both shows, and then at the end I will say what I liked better, whether it was Raw or SmackDown. And for the past 3 weeks, Raw's been catching up to SmackDown. It's actually been better than SmackDown, um, which is pretty good for Raw because for a while SmackDown was beating Raw. So let's see if Raw can beat SmackDown for a fourth week in a row, or SmackDown will make a huge comeback. Well, we have a very interesting matchup going on because this is the go home show before Fastlane for Raw, and SmackDown's going to be continuing to build up to WrestleMania. So we have a very interesting matchup going on here. So let's see which one can win. Is it going to be Raw or is it going to be SmackDown? Okay, so let me preview Raw, um, because usually I like to preview Raw about what's to come. So let me do that now. Um, so let's talk about um, Raw. We have a big episode of Raw coming up. Like I said, it's the go home show before Fastlane, so I expect this to be a good show. Um, just give me a second. It's taking a while to pop up. Um, so we have Raw for February 27th, 2017, and here's what we have coming up. We have the return of Seth Rollins, and I have the article here. Seth Rollins addresses his injury. Save for posting a series of Fight Club quotes on Instagram for the past few Monday nights. Seth Rollins has been relatively quiet concerning his condition following Samoa Joe's ambush that tore the Architect's right MCL. At this point, it seems unlikely that Rollins will be able to compete at this year's WrestleMania. That would mean that the former WWE champion will miss his second consecutive show of shows, this time thanks to Triple H's Destroyer. Will Rollins confirm this unfortunate news, or will he have another message entirely for the cerebral assassin and the Samoan submission specialist? So it's going to be interesting. This is going to be the first time we're going to hear from Seth Rollins since he was taken out by Samoa Joe. Looking forward to that. What I predict is going to happen is I've been reading websites online that said Seth Rollins is going to be able to go at WrestleMania. So whether that's going to be wrestling Triple H or Samoa Joe, I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see. The next article is called Goldberg Returns Before Fastlane. Here's what it says. Universal Champion Kevin Owens has been even more ruthless than usual since he severed his friendship with Chris Jericho during their Festival of Friendship on Raw earlier this month. Whether this new attitude will help shield the prize fighter from Goldberg's onslaught. No, actually, sorry. I read that. Yeah, actually, I know I didn't. Remains to be seen at WWE Fastlane. As Paul Heyman revealed this past Monday night, Brock Lesnar is banking on Goldberg becoming Universal Champion, giving the Beast incarnate just one more thing to take away from the WCW icon when they clash at WrestleMania, along with Goldberg's health, well-being, reputation, legacy, and career. Meanwhile, Owens doubts Goldberg's true abilities and claims that at WWE Fastlane, the veteran's superhero fantasy will come to an end. Can Owens break up his boast, or will he underestimate Goldberg's power, just as Lesnar did at Survivor Series? So it's going to be interesting to see Goldberg. This is going to be the first time Goldberg and Kevin Owens have been in the ring together, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. Now that Kevin Owens is the serious Kevin Owens, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Then the next article is called "Is Roman Reigns Fighting a Losing Battle Against Braun Strowman?" Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns remains one of the best dominant superstars on Team Red, but when it comes down to Braun Strowman, the big dog seems to lose his bite. After brutalizing Raw Tag Team Champions Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson this past Monday night in a 2-on-1 handicap match, the furious Reigns attempted to attack the monster among men in the wake of Strowman's victory over Big Show, and he ultimately fell victim to the Behemoth's run-in power slam. This scenario is becoming painfully familiar to Reigns in recent weeks, and it seems increasingly doubtful that the former WWE Champion has any chance of conquering Strowman when they battle at WWE Fastlane. Can Reigns pick up some necessary momentum before his one-on-one match against this unstoppable Titan? So I guess it's going to be pretty interesting to see what Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman are going to do going into Fastlane. So I'm pretty interested in that. Next article is called Enzo Amore and Big Cass close in on Big Gal and Andy. What do we got over here? A couple of number one contenders? Instead, actually felt like a New Yorker reading that. Instead, Enzo Amore and Big Cass defeated Cesaro and Sheamus this past Monday night to earn a Raw Tag Team Championship opportunity against Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson at WWE Fastlane. The Certified G's already have a storied history with so-called Good Brothers. Now that Raw's tandem titles are on the line, something tells us the Thunder and Lightning pair will up their game this week on Raw, both in the ring and on the mic. Are the Cowboys in Black prepared to truly start taking this fun-loving duo seriously? So it's going to be interesting to see, and I guess because I am slightly interested in this feud, but one of my friends brought it up today. It feels like that Enzo and Big Cass are kind of getting stale a little bit because they say the same thing every week. You know, the opening's the same, and they do the same stuff all the time. So it gets old, and it doesn't really feel like Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows have done a lot with the Raw Tag Team Championship. So it's kind of But then the next article is called "What Scheme Does Charlotte Flair Have in Store for Bayley?" In light of the controversial circumstances surrounding Bayley's Raw Women's title victory on the February 13th Raw, Sasha Banks attacked Charlotte Flair with her crutch when the referee wasn't looking. The Queen demanded that the Huggable one relinquish her title. Fortunately, much up to the delight of the WWE Universe, Bayley didn't honor that demand. In fact, instead of getting the title returned to her, Charlotte received a loss at the hands of the Boss just moments later. No doubt still furious after being forced to tap out to Bayley's best friend's finishing maneuver, the bank statement, Charlotte is likely plotting some serious mind games to get inside the new champion's head before the Raw Women's title match at WWE Fastlane. Will the high and mighty Queen sink to new lows this Monday night? Don't miss Raw this Monday at 8/7 Central on USA Network. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Charlotte Flair and Bayley. I'm not really too interested in it because I know that Charlotte Flair was winning back the Raw Women's Championship at Fastlane, so it's kind of a waste of time to me. But I guess it'll be pretty interesting to see what they do. But that's kind of like there's one final thing actually for Raw actually. So we have another inductee that's going into the Hall of Fame. I don't know, I'm having some technical difficulties with my phone. Okay. Come on. It's taking a while to load up. Okay, let me try that again. Okay. So the next Hall of Fame inductee is going to be Beth Phoenix. She's going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2017. And I have the article right here to kind of talk about her. Beth Phoenix, one of the most dominant female competitors in sports entertainment, will take her rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame when she is inducted as part of the class of 2007 during WrestleMania 33 week. The news was first reported by USA Today, and then you can visit her profile page and photo gallery and everything and watch her in action. Uh, Phoenix first arrived in WWE in 2006, brutalizing Mickie James and aligning herself with fellow WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus. Unfortunately, a jaw injury forced Phoenix to the sidelines just weeks after her debut. She returned to Monday Night Raw more than a year later, ready to dominate the competition. Possessing great beauty and power, Phoenix dubbed herself the Glamazon and went right to work. Within months of her return to WWE, Phoenix captured the Women's Championship and dominated the division for months, muscling around the competition with ease before planting opponents face first into the canvas with her patented Glam Slam. She also was part of an unlikely yet infamous power couple with Santino Marella. The duo, dubbed Glamarella, found great success often in spite of the wacky antics of the Million Miracle. In fact, it was Phoenix who won herself a second Women's Championship and Marella the Intercontinental title in a winner-take-all tag team match at SummerSlam 2008. Phoenix went on to capture the Women's Championship once more, as well as the Divas Championship before stepping away from the win in 2012. On top of her championship glory, the Glamazon was a pioneer, truly showing that women could go inside the squared circle. Phoenix was the second woman ever to enter the Royal Rumble match, eliminating the towering Great Khali in the 2010 edition of the 30 Superstar over-the-top rope melee. She wasn't afraid to throw down in a hardcore match and even took part in the first ever tables match to Future Woman at WWE TLC 2010. And now Beth Phoenix is blazing a trail towards sports entertainment immortality as she enters the WWE Hall of Fame. Tickets for the 2017 WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony taking place on Friday, March 31st at the Amway Center in Orlando are available now. Visit Ticketmaster.com for complete information on how you can see Beth Phoenix take her place in sports entertainment history. So, I'm happy to see Beth Phoenix go into the WWE Hall of Fame. I think she's definitely deserved it. It does seem a little bit soon, I guess, just because it really doesn't seem like she's been away from the business all that long. But whatever. I'm pretty interested in this though. I mean, Beth Phoenix. I was talking about this with my friends earlier today, and she doesn't have. She's done a lot with her career, but one of the main problems is she grew up at a time where the women's wrestling wasn't as much of a focus because she was involved in a lot of bad storylines, and a lot of the women that she worked with weren't really good women wrestlers. So if she had probably done this nowadays, she probably would have thrived even more. I mean, she would be wrestling like, Charlotte Flair and the Baileys and the Sasha Bankses and everything. So it does kind of suck that looking back that she kind of had to grow, that she kind of was wrestling at the time that she was, because she would have such a better career, but she still had a pretty good career, and she probably was the best women's wrestler. You could make an argument that when she was, a lot of the time when she was in the business, that she was probably one of the best women's wrestlers. So, you can't go wrong there. But yeah, that's pretty much my preview of Raw. I can't wait to see it, so I hope you guys enjoy it. And after I watch the entire show live, I will come back on here and give you my review after it's over. So I hope you guys enjoy the show, and make sure you leave your comments and say what you think is going to... Well, actually, don't do that, actually, because by the time you see this, Raw would have already happened, so don't do that. Okay, so we had the actual show itself, and we had Corey Graves, Michael Cole, and Byron Saxton on commentary for this show, and the show opens right up with Goldberg, and he comes out, and he gets in the ring, and he grabs a mic and says that he's pumped for his WWE Universal Championship match this Sunday, and he says that he mainly lives up to his promises. Well, actually, no. Then he says that he heard the stuff that Kevin Owens said about him last week, and all that stuff is false. And he says that he came back to the WWE to become champion. And he says that he's going to do that, and he wants to walk into WrestleMania as the WWE Universal Champion. And he says that Kevin Owens had the guts to say that stuff when I wasn't here, and all he heard him was just talk, but he didn't see any action. And he says that what he did to Chris Jericho was not cool, but he's not gonna. But that's Chris Jericho. That's not Goldberg. And he says that he normally keeps his promises. So he says that he's going to defeat him at Fastlane, and he's gonna do it for the fans, for himself, and for his wife and his son. And he's gonna be holding the WWE Universal Championship. And then he goes to leave. And then Kevin Owens comes out, and he says that he thanks him because he actually made a compliment that he was wearing a nice suit. And he talks about how ever since that he came to WWE, he's dominated. He goes through all the superstars that he's beaten. But then when he gets to Chris Jericho, he's like, I'm not even going to mention what the beating I gave Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho, quite frankly, doesn't matter, which I love that he said that. And he talks about how he's the most dominant champion in WWE history, and he says that he's going to destroy Goldberg at Fastlane, that he's not going to take him lightly, and then he thinks that Goldberg is taking him lightly, and he says that his focus is at WrestleMania, and he says that he pretty much says that he's going to leave Goldberg laying in the middle of the ring, holding up his title, and said that he's going to walk out of Fastlane the Universal Champion. Then Goldberg says that I was actually in a good mood, but now you really pissed me off. So he says we don't have to wait till Fastlane. We can fight right here, right now. And then he says, okay, let's have a good old-fashioned Green Bay street fight. Oh, wait a minute, but this is Green Bay, and they're not fit to see me wrestle. And then he says, we're going to wait till Sunday. And that was about it. I actually thought this was a good opening segment. I thought it was awesome. This probably was the best thing on the show, I'd say. Just because I thought it was awesome. And I thought it was a great way to sell the match. And it does actually make it unpredictable about who's going to win. I really hope it's Kevin Owens that wins Sunday, but we're going to have to wait and see. But I hope it is Kevin Owens. Then we had the first real match on the show. It was Xavier Woods and Big E with Kofi Kingston ringside versus the Shining Stars. I know that match doesn't necessarily happen, but I'm going to get to that in a second. So the New Day come out, and they pretty much talk about how they've been feeding the WWE Universe sugar. They've also been giving them bootios, and they want to give them ice cream. And they pretty much say that they don't have to worry about how much stuff that they have on their plate because they're hosting WrestleMania. And that was really about it. They really didn't say anything of importance here. But then when the Shining Stars come out, the New Day grabs an envelope and says that there's been a mistake. You're actually not facing us right now. It's actually you're actually facing the Big Show later on tonight in a 2-on-1 handicap match. And we're actually facing Rusev and Jinder Mahal tonight. So, yeah, it was weird. So it ends up being Xavier Woods and Big E versus Rusev and Jinder Mahal with Lana inside. And Rusev is, I guess, his nose is healed now because he wasn't wrestling in the I guess I call it the face mask tonight. And Xavier Woods and Big E dominate the first half of the matchup, and then the heels get the heat on Xavier Woods for a while, and then Big E gets the hot tag, starts going off on everybody, and then eventually he gets taken out by Rusev, and Kofi Kingston and Lana get into exchange, and Rusev gets in his face and tells him not to make fun of Lana, or tells him to leave his wife alone, and then eventually Xavier Woods hits a roll-up on Jinder Mahal for the win, and that was it. It was really an average match, nothing special. And then Enzo Amore and Big Cass are backstage, and Enzo Amore talks about how they have the opportunity to win the Raw Tag Team Championships. at Fastlane, and he said that he feels like that no one that gives him recognition. That's going to give him a name tag. Um, and he says that when they win the Raw Tag Team titles, they're going to carry him and Cass are going to carry him around everywhere, even to the bathroom. But Big Cass says that we have to focus because Gallows and Anderson have been Raw tag team champions all over the world, and he says that we can't take them lightly. We haven't been tag team champions yet, not even down in NXT. And Big Cass says that we are going to win, but we just can't take them too lightly. And he says that tonight he has a match with Luke Gallows, so he wants to focus on that. And that was about it. I thought it was a good backstage segment. And then Sheamus and Cesaro are backstage, and Sheamus is upset that they lost the rights to fight for the Raw Tag Team Championships. But Cesaro says that hey, you don't need to worry about that because my uncle has a good saying. We may look like crap now, but we'll come out smelling like water, well, looking like water, or something like that. And then Samoa Joe comes up, and he pretty much insults Cesaro, saying that Cesaro has been in the WWE for years, and he's always been trying to reach up for that brass ring. But when Samoa Joe came into the company, he immediately has the brass ring. He says that he has the brass ring right now. And Cesaro calls Samoa Joe Triple H's turncoat. And he says that he's fine with the spot that he's in. And then that was about it. Samoa Joe walks off, and then Sheamus was pissed about, but was like, I can handle this. And this obviously sets up some stuff for later on, but I thought this was a very good backstage segment between Cesaro and Samoa Joe. And then Stephanie McMahon's backstage, and Mick Foley comes up, and she apologizes to him. And we think she's going to say she apologizes to him for the way she treated him last week, but she pretty much apologizes because Mick Foley's not the same guy that he was years ago. He said he talks about the time that him and Triple H had that retirement match at No Way Out inside the Hell in a Cell, and he pretty much says that since then Triple H has just been getting better, and you've just been growing drearier and drearier, and you just become a shell of what you once used to be. And he said, maybe I put too much pressure because of that reason hiring you as the general manager of Raw. So then she just kept she just keeps diminishing him, and that was it. I really didn't care for this. I thought this made Mick Foley look like crap. And I think he should have fought back against it. This is kind of one of those instances where Stephanie McMahon can do some damage being on WWE television, and kind of her being in feuds, because she always has to get the last word, and no one can ever one-up her, and this was kind of one of those instances. Because I've talked about, me and my friends talked about this months ago, where just after Clash of Champions, he had yelled at her for not, for when Triple H, for when she had left with Triple H after the Universal title match. The exact same thing here. He went to go say something about it, she yelled at him for it, and he felt bad about it. This was kind of the same thing. And Mick Foley, I get they're trying to tell the story where maybe he doesn't feel like he has what it takes to be a general manager, and he's not going to be a general manager very long, but it's kind of like, it's kind of making him look like a shit, I feel like. And I didn't really like this. So then we had the next match. It was Akira Tozawa versus Noam Dar with Alicia Fox ringside. And since this was a cruiserweight match, Austin Aries took Byron Saxton's place on commentary. He did a great job as always. And this match actually was an okay match. Before the match, the Brian Kendrick cuts a little video promo, talking about how he wanted to take Akira Tozawa under his wing, and he chose not to. And he says that it's going to be a big mistake to Akira Tozawa, and he said that he's going to teach Akira Tozawa lessons, and he said that lessons number 1 is to not trust anybody in the WWE, and then he says lesson number 2, and it shows them facing off at 205 Live, and he says to win at many means necessary, and he said that he's going to continue to teach Akira Tozawa lessons, And this match pretty much is build up for the tag team match they have coming up on the kickoff at Fastlane between Akira Tozawa and Rich Swann versus Noam Dar and the Brian Kendrick. That match does not have any hype behind it at all. It's just randomly thrown on the last minute. Um, and I have no idea why. Um, really, if you think about it, if you wanted to throw any of these guys in, it should have just been Akira Tozawa versus the Brian Kendrick, because that match has a little bit more story behind it, and it's a match I would at least somewhat care about. Not the tag match. The tag match I could give less of a fucks about. So, but anyhow, this match, like I said, was okay. Akira Tozawa dominates the first half of it. He hits a Hurricanrana on Noam Dar, but then Noam Dar trips him when he goes to go off the top rope, and he dominates the matchup for a while, and then eventually he starts making his comeback, and then he hits a suicide dive on the outside, and he wins with a snap German suplex, and then that was it. And then afterwards, the Brian Kendrick attacks Akira Tozawa from behind. He beats the crap out of him, and he slams his head against the steel post, and it looked brutal, actually. He beats the crap out of him, and then afterwards he gets on the mic and says that this is lesson number 3 for Akira Tozawa, is that you need to always have eyes in the back of your head, and clearly he didn't here, because just because you think the match is over, somebody could attack you from behind. And then he asks him if he has any questions, but he's too late out to ask any questions. And that was it. I actually thought this was a good attack by Kendrick. And like I said, I don't know why they're just not building to a one-on-one match between Kendrick and Akira Tozawa. There's enough story. I feel like there's somewhat of enough story. And I thought Kendrick was great here. And if Rich Swann isn't going to be wrestling at Fastlane, why isn't he having his rematch for the Cruiserweight Championship? I personally don't think that makes any sense. It was weird. And then next, Mick Foley's backstage, and you can see that he's kind of upset. And then Samoa Joe's backstage, and he comes up to him, and Mick Foley says that he used 13 years ago, he was a huge fan of Samoa Joe, but now he's not anymore because of the way that he got brought up to the main roster and who he's associated with. And Samoa Joe says that I think you're just jealous because I've accomplished more in my few weeks than you did in your whole career, and that your days as general manager are numbered. And then Mick Foley says that my days of GM may be numbered, but I still can make matches around here, and I'm still the GM as of right now. And tonight you're going to face Cesaro. So he makes that match, and I thought it was a great idea. This was a fine backstage segment. Next match was a tag team match. Charlotte Flair and Dana Brooke versus Sasha Banks and Bayley. Before the match starts, Charlotte gets on the mic, and she talks about, there was a lot of promos tonight. She talks about how Bayley always stands for integrity and always stands for doing the right thing. But she's not surprised. But she's not surprised that she didn't give up the Raw Women's Championship when she won it. Because she's just like every one of you. She finally had gotten to the top, and she wanted to savor it. But she said that's okay because she's going to get back a Raw Women's Championship. And she talks about how she's not going to be just a flash in the pan, a one-hit wonder, just like she mentions a bunch of past sports athletes and a bunch of movie actors. And she said that she's not going to be like that, and she says that some sort of magazine voted her as the top woman athlete of all time. And then eventually Bayley comes out, and she says that she's out here because she can be, because she's the champ, and that she says that she worked hard to get that Raw Women's Championship, and she's not willing to give it up anytime soon. And she says that I also beat you 3 times, Charlotte, so I know what it takes to beat you. And then Charlotte says that that's cute, but I'm the real Raw Women's Champion, not you. And then eventually Sasha Banks comes out, and she says that I know you're frustrated, but Bayley's more of a Raw Women's Champion than you'll ever be. And she says that you always took the coward's way out, and you always cheated. And then Charlotte says, are you out here defending Bayley, or are you out here trying to take her spotlight? And then Sasha Banks says that, hey, we're out here now. We have a tag match to go on, so let's have that match right now. So then Charlotte says, "Well, we do have a tag match, but Dana Brooke is actually not my partner, and this is actually my partner." And when Charlotte said this, Dana Brooke had like this weird look on her face. So I don't know if they're gonna start teasing tension between Charlotte Flair and Dana Brooke. They kind of went there a little bit before, but they didn't really go fully all the way with it. So we're gonna have to wait and see. But then we found out her actual partner is Nia Jax, which I assume because she's like the only other woman really on the roster. Um, and in the beginning of the match, Nia Jax just destroys Bayley and Sasha. And then eventually, when Charlotte gets in, they're able to actually hit moves on her. And Bayley goes to attack her on the outside. Dana Brooke tries to check on Charlotte, but Bayley just lays her out with the Bayley to belly. So then Dana Brooke's just taken out of the matchup. They said like she suffered some injured ribs or something. And then the heels get the heat on Sasha Banks for a while. And then Bayley gets the hot tag. She starts going off on Charlotte. But eventually Nia Jax gets the tag back in. And she lays out Bayley, and then she lays out Sasha, and she hits a leg drop on Bayley for the win, and that was it. I thought it was okay, nothing special. It's a way to build up the Raw Women's title match. And then Mick Foley's backstage again, and Braun Strowman comes up, and he says that he wants a contract. And at first I thought they were going to try to do some sort of storyline where he wasn't signed to a contract, but no, he says that he wants a contract, stating that Roman Reigns will show up to the match at Fastlane, because he doesn't think he's going to, because he's been laying him out the past few weeks, and Mick Foley pretty much grants him just that, even though he says that he fully believes Roman Reigns is going to be there Sunday. So that was about it. I thought it was a good way to set up the contract signing, so it was fine. Then we had the next match. It was Luke Gallows with Carl Anderson versus Big Cass with Enzo Amore. Really wasn't anything special. Big Cass and Enzo Amore come out and they do the typical stick, which, like I said, talked about in the beginning of this video, has kind of gotten stale now. I'm glad they didn't like talk trash about him, because they really didn't need to, but like I said, they do the same shtick all the time. And Carl Anderson gets up on the apron and distracts Big Cass, and Luke Gallows kicks him in the back, kicks him right in the back of the head, and he dominates the matchup pretty much for a while. He hits a splash in the corner, and he pretty much picks apart Big Cass, and then eventually Big Cass makes a comeback, hits a bunch of splashes in the corner, and then he hits a clothesline on him. He hits the fall away slam and an Empire elbow, and then eventually Carl Anderson gets on the apron and Cass goes to knock him off, and then Enzo tries to attack him. Anderson gets the upper hand, but and he goes to throw him into the barricade, but Enzo Amore reverses it, and then afterwards Gallows tries to lay out Big Cass, but he ends up beating him with a big boot and get the victory. I thought it was fine. It was the way to build up the tag title match. I'm really not a huge fan of Gallows and Anderson losing. They've really haven't had much shine as Raw Tag Team Champions, so I hope they retain at Fastlane. Then we had the next match. It was Titus O'Neil versus Sheamus, and the reason this match was happening was because just before this on Facebook Live, Titus O'Neil pretty much was trying to get Sheamus to have him be his tag team partner, because there's a chance that Samoa Joe can completely destroy Cesaro. So he said that he wanted him to be his new partner, but Sheamus had gone to walk away, and then Sheamus had embarrassed Titus O'Neil. So Titus O'Neil, before the match starts, attacks Sheamus, big boots him, throws him into the barricade, throws him into like the LED board that's on the apron, and then the match finally starts. He splashes him in the corner, attacks him in the corner, and then the referee holds him back. Sheamus hits a blow kick, covers him, gets the win, and that was the entire fucking match. Yeah, it was a waste of time. This was not needed on the show. And then next, Seth Rollins returns, which was awesome. and he gets interviewed by Corey Graves, and I thought this was awesome to see Seth Rollins back finally. And he comes out though, and his legs in a knee. He's in a knee brace, and he's in a crutch. Um, and you know, Corey Graves first asks him how he feels um, right now, and he says that he doesn't know. He says that he re-injured his leg, but he said that they could be worse than he thought because they did the X-ray the first time. It didn't look as bad, but now it's probably looking like that medicine's not super healable. So they're gonna have to wait and see how it plays out. And then Corey Graves asks him, "How do you feel about what happened? That this happened to you?" And then Seth Rollins says, "I don't know. Maybe I deserve this." And Corey Graves is like, "What do you mean?" And he says, that at WrestleMania 31, I had won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and I was on top of the world. I rubbed it in everybody's face, and I just was living in the moment. But I really should have seen this coming all along. I had said that I had bought I had said when I joined forces with Triple H that I bought in, and he says that maybe he bought in a little bit too much. Maybe he let his ego get in the way, and he didn't see the bigger picture. Maybe if he hadn't let his ego get in the way, he would have seen Triple H turning on him. So he says maybe I would not have lost as much as I did. Maybe I would be WWE Universal Champion right now. So then Corey Graves asks him if Seth Rollins is going to be able to compete at WrestleMania, and then Seth Rollins is like, well, I don't know. And then Triple H's music hits, and Triple H comes out, and Triple H gets on the mic and says, just like always, Seth Rollins, I have to answer the questions for you. I've always have to answer your questions, just like when you and I used to be together. And Triple H says that he's not going to be at WrestleMania, and you see Samoa Joe out there as well, which Samoa Joe being out there was really pointless. It really didn't serve any purpose behind it. Just give me a second. I actually got to charge my computer. Because I thought I'd be able to do this, the whole thing, without having to charge it. Okay. Sorry about that. But anyhow, so Triple H comes out and he talks about, how he created Seth Rollins. He gambled on him. He made him the man. He gave Seth Rollins everything that he had ever wanted. He said that Seth Rollins was an architect. And he said that, he gave Seth Rollins a golden opportunity. But yet he ended up throwing it all away because he just couldn't hold his end of the bargain. And he puts down Seth Rollins. And then eventually he talks about, how the fans say that I may have turned on you, and who cares? Big whoop. Yes, I used you. I scratched every claw that I could out of you. But it did benefit you somewhat because you made money. But now you've become nothing. You've become a shell of what you once were. And you're just breaking down. And then he talks about how he used to call Seth Rollins the future, but he's just the past now. And eventually he's just going to thin away. And he tells Seth Rollins not to show up at WrestleMania because it will be the last thing that he does in a WWE win. So then he goes to leave, and then Seth Rollins says that he will be at WrestleMania, and if it's going to be the last thing that he ever does in a WWE win, he'll make sure that it's the same thing for Triple H. So it's going to be very interesting. But he doesn't. But they also said that Seth Rollins isn't sure if his doctors are going to clear him in time. So I wonder if they're going to play out that storyline somehow. So I actually am very interested to seeing what happens with this whole Seth Rollins Triple H feud. It really does suck that Seth Rollins has to be hurt now that Triple H is finally starting to show up on TV. But There's really nothing you can do about it. So I don't know what they're gonna do with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, because it's very risky to have him actually wrestle if he's still injured. Um, so I expect him maybe to show up at WrestleMania and um, make him think that he's actually hurt, and then rip the knee brace off and attack people. I expect it to be like an on-air segment, because having Seth Rollins wrestle a match would be very risky, because he's just coming off an injury. You don't want to have him. And WrestleMania is like you put it out on the line. And I feel like, we wouldn't get the matchup we would want, because Seth Rollins is just coming off an injury. So I feel like they're going to hold off on it, which kind of sucks, because we wanted to see it at Mania. But they are adding layers to this feud, so I like it. So it's very interesting. So I don't know if the Seth Rollins is actually going to wrestle a match at WrestleMania, or if he's going to just have a promo segment. It's very interesting. Depends on what happens with, I guess, his injury. So then next we have the 2-on-1 handicap match. Big Show versus the Shining Stars. It was a squash. It didn't really serve a purpose. Big Show hits a knockout punch on Primo, which makes him hit a DDT on Epico, and then he eventually hits a choke slam on Epico for the win. I don't know. It was really pointless. Didn't really serve much of a purpose. And then it shows another Black History Month segment. And this time they paid tribute to Martin Luther King Jr., which is why we have Martin Luther King's Day. And, a bunch of superstars talked about it, like Titus O'Neil, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Sasha Banks, Alicia Fox, somebody else too. Forget who else. But they pretty much just kind of showed everybody, Rich Swann, just kind of hyping up Martin Luther King Jr. But what I don't like about him is I hate that these thin promos are so scripted. Because I feel like it would mean more if they actually could say what they actually felt about the situation. So, what they felt about this person. Then next, Tony Nese is backstage, and Neville comes up and says that, I know we have a tag match tonight, but you got to remember the whole purpose behind this match is just to put Jack Gallagher in this place, because I'm the king of the cruiserweight division. And Tony Nese says that he hears him, but he says that he's not going out there just for Neville. He's going out there for him to prove why he should be the one fighting for the Cruiserweight Championship. And Neville then tells him not to screw it up. And that was about it. I thought this was a fine backstage segment. And then we have an Austin Aries video package hyping him up. Obviously, because he's going to be making his debut on the main roster as a wrestler pretty soon, which I can't wait to see. Then we had the next match, another tag team match, Jack Gallagher and TJ Perkins versus Tony Nese and Neville. Since, it was a cruiserweight match, Austin Aries took Byron Saxton's place on commentary. So, this match was okay. It was really short. They dominate. Neville attacks Jack Gallagher before the matchup, and they dominate TJ Perkins for a couple minutes, and then eventually Tony Nese goes to German suplex him in the corner. TJ Perkins ends up getting a hot tag on Jack Gallagher. He starts going off on Tony Nese. Then eventually TJ Perkins throws Neville out of the ring. And then he hits a headbutt. Gallagher hits a headbutt on Neville. And TJ Perkins, behind the referee's back, hits a Dead Nation kick on Tony Nese, and then Jack Gallagher hits the drop kick, and then he gets him into the submission hold where he crosses his legs together and just kicks him right in the back of the head onto Tony Nese, and Tony Nese ends up, I think he ended up tapping out or passing out. I'm not sure which one, and afterwards Neville just looks on. So I thought it was fine, and I'm glad that Jack Gallagher got a new finisher, because the drop kick in the corner I thought it was an alright finisher, but I think this finish is just so much better. And then it plays a video package about Beth Phoenix announcing her going into the Hall of Fame. and you had superstars like Trish Stratus, John Cena, um, Eve Torres, um, and who else? Natalia hyping her up. Natalia talked about how much of a big influence she was on her, and you also had the Miz hyping her up as well. And they talk about and actually how she was in the first tables match, like she said, how she was in the first ever I Quit match, woman's I Quit match, I should say, women's tables match, and her being in the Royal Rumble and everything. So it was interesting, and it was nice. I actually can't wait to see Beth Phoenix go into the Hall of Fame. And I thought that I had about who could induct her, because I've been thinking, me and my friends were talking about it, and a possibility is Natalia. Natalia and Beth Phoenix were pretty much really good friends in the women's division, so I wouldn't be surprised if Natalia ended up inducted Beth Phoenix into the Hall of Fame, but that remains to be seen. So then Bailey and Sasha Banks are backstage, and Sasha Banks says that even though we lost tonight and we're in bad shape, I meant everything I said out there. And Bailey says, I know, but she says, Sunday I gotta have eyes in the back of my head. And Sasha says that she doesn't need them because she's going to be in a corner at Fastlane. So then Stephanie McMahon comes up and says, are you just going to be in Sasha's corner because you don't think that Bailey can do it on her own? Or are you just trying to steal the spotlight? And then Stephanie McMahon says that you don't even have to worry about it because you have to watch your own back because you're going to be facing Nia Jax at Fastlane. So that was it. I thought it was fine. I really don't like the fact that they just added Sasha Banks versus Nia Jax out of nowhere. It really serves no purpose. No reason for it to be a match on a pay-per-view. I get they have storyline behind it, but they really haven't done anything with it in a while. So then we had the main event match on the show. It was Cesaro versus Samoa Joe. I thought this was a good match. Everyone's going to probably say it was a really good match. I thought it was a good match. The reason why I thought it was a good match is I know these two are really capable of putting on a way better match than they are. I just think that eventually we will get a great pay-per-view match out of them, but they don't want to blow the load too early, so I was fine with the match that we got because I still thought it was good. And Cesaro immediately just attacks Samoa Joe, and he just immediately goes off on him. And Samoa Joe ends up knocking Cesaro out of the ring, and Cesaro lands awkwardly on his knee, but he still continues to fight the match anyways. And he hits a crossbody on Joe, covers him, kicks out, and then Samoa Joe hits an atomic drop while Cesaro's legs are crossed together. So then Samoa Joe dominates the matchup for a while. Cesaro makes a comeback and he hits a drop kick on Joe. He hits an uppercut while Samoa Joe is sitting down. But then eventually Samoa Joe hits a splash and an enzuigiri on Cesaro. He gets a knee ball in out of nowhere, but Cesaro reverses it into the sharpshooter, but Joe's able to get the ropes. And Cesaro tries to go for the swim, but he can't do it because of his leg. And Samoa Joe hits a senton. Cesaro kicks out. And Cesaro hits a blockbuster. Joe kicks out. And he goes for the neutralizer. Joe counters, and Cesaro lands awkwardly on his leg. And then Joe ends up hitting a Yoranagi for the win. I don't know why they won't let him do the muscle buster, which is really weird, but I don't know. And afterwards, he gets interviewed, and he says that the reason that he's been successful that he is and why he was brought up is because he's the most dominant he's here to hurt people. He's not here to just be a wrestler. He says that he's going to hurt all their heroes. And then Sami Zayn comes out and he attacks Samoa Joe, beats the crap out of him. And security tries to hold him back. Samoa Joe takes a cheap shot, and eventually Sami Zayn dives off the stage right onto Samoa Joe. And I thought this was great. I thought it was a nice way to set up the match at Fastlane, because now they've announced that they're going to face off at Fastlane, and I can't wait to see that match. And then we had the actual main event segment of the show. It was the contract signing between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. And Braun Strowman, and this contract signing is hosted by Mick Foley, and Braun Strowman comes out and and pretty much interrupts Mick Foley while he's talking, and he says that, okay, you bought the contract, you bought the table, you don't need to be out here. He tells him to get out of his ring or else. And Mick Foley says that, I may not be general manager any longer, but I'm still running things around here, and we're going to do this in a professional manner. And Braun Strowman then says, well, maybe Stephanie McMahon's right. Maybe you are a broken down man, because I used to have respect for you, but now I don't have any respect for you, and I try to respectfully ask you to leave, so get out. And then Mick Foley gets enraged, and he says, you know what, this isn't about me being a general manager, this is about me being a legend, and you should respect me. He says that general managers come and go, but legends are forever. But before he could finish it, Strowman knocks the microphone out of his hand. But I thought Mick Foley was great here. They have a little bit of a face-off. And then Roman Reigns comes out. And Strowman's standing outside the ring. And he attacks Strowman. But Strowman tries to throw him into, throws him just like over the steel steps. But then Reigns hits a Superman punch off the steps on him. But then eventually, and he continues to attack him. But then eventually Strowman sends him back first into the steel post. And they pretty much fight in the crowd. Strowman kicks his ass for a while, and then Reigns fights back. He hits a Superman punch off like the stairs coming into the aisleway coming into the if you that is between the arena seats, and then he hits him off and then he hits a spear through the barricade, and we think Strowman's out, right? And he ends up taking out a security guard too. And Reigns is about to sign the contract, but then Braun Strowman gets up and says, is that all you got? Which I thought was great. And made him look like a monster. So Reigns clears the ring. He continues to attack Strowman, hits a Superman punch on him, and he goes for the spear, but Strowman counters it, and he throws Strowman face first into the turnbuckle, like the top turnbuckle, and it explodes, which I thought looked really cool. And Braun Strowman walks away, but afterwards Roman Reigns crawls up to his feet, and he ends up signing the contract, showing that he's willing to take it to Braun Strowman, and he's not afraid of him. And Strowman gets like this big evil smile on his face, and he's all happy about this, which he really should be. And that was the end of the show. And yeah, I thought the segment between between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman was really good. Not as good as the opening segment, but I thought it was really good. And I guess I thought it was a good way to end off the show. And I also liked it because it made Braun Strowman look like a monster. But, the thing I'm going to hate about it is because Strowman looked so strong here, it just definitely shows that Roman Reigns is winning Sunday because of the way they're telling that story. And it just kind of sucks that they're going to build up Braun Strowman this well. They've progressed him up really well. Just to have him get fed to Roman Reigns, that's really shitty. But yeah, that was Raw for this week. So overall, I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought Raw was an average show. I was very disappointed with it in a way because this was the final Raw before the pay-per-view. And I still thought they touched on everything they needed to touch on for Fastlane. They built up, I think, every match. They built up the Universal title match. They built up the Cruiserweight matches that are going to be on the show. The Tag title match. The Women's match. Both of them, I guess. And they did build up Reigns versus Strowman at the end. And they had that really good match with Cesaro and Samoa Joe. Seth Rollins' return was good. But a lot of this stuff just felt average. Like, I didn't think they did a good enough job building up to some of this stuff on this show. The New Day really didn't really serve much of a purpose on this show because they're not really in any angles right now. They're just kind of there just for the sake of being there. That Sheamus Titus O'Neil match was a waste of time. A lot of the matches were really short, which I'm not like saying that a lot of wrestling matches need to be there, but a lot of the matches just didn't really have a lot of effect. They got the job they needed to get done, but that doesn't really mean that it's anything special. You had that handicap match with the Shining Stars and Big Show that was really unnecessary. And the whole show, I just didn't really think I just thought it really felt average. I didn't think this was a good go. Mainly because too, this was supposed to be the go home show before Fastlane, and I didn't think this was a very good go home show before Fastlane to help set up for Fastlane. I think they could have done a lot better job than they did. So that's really what I think about the show. If I had to say what I think about it, is I'm going to rate this show a 5 out of 10. Okay, so now on to SmackDown for February 28th, 2017. And I'm just going to do the preview here. I ended up missing it last night because I was doing homework and I ended up falling asleep. So I just missed SmackDown and I apologize for that. But I did read the preview before I watched it online. So, but I can't pull it back up because then I'll get spoiled about what happened. So I'm just going to preview SmackDown really quickly. John Cena is going to be appearing on Miz TV. That's going to be interesting, I guess, because they're going to start setting up that feud between John Cena and The Miz, and that whole mixed tag team thing with Nikki Bella and Maurice as well, probably. And I think even though I don't really have any interest in seeing that match at WrestleMania, I think this could be interesting because The Miz has just been on fire lately with his promos and putting stuff up, and John Cena, I think, you know, what the promos that he's been saying hasn't been all cartoonish and stuff, so I think that could be pretty entertaining in that aspect. But the stuff between Maurice and Nikki Bella will not be interesting. So, if anything, really, I would rather see like a one-on-one match between The Miz and John Cena. And The Miz and Cena do have history from, you know, WrestleMania 27 and everything, so I am slightly interested in seeing what they do with it. And then we're also going to have a 2 out of 3 falls match between Mickie James and Becky Lynch. That's going to be pretty interesting. You know, they've been pretty much feuded since Mickie James made her return to SmackDown, and they've been having a couple of one-on-one matches, and it makes sense for it to be 2 out of 3 falls since they both have victories over each other, with Becky Lynch winning at Fastlane and then Mickie James winning on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. So I'm fine with them having a 2 out of 3 falls match. That should be I think that should be a good match. And obviously we have the main event of the show. The big match everyone's looking forward to seeing is we're gonna finally find out who's gonna be facing Bray Wyatt for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 33, and we're gonna have the matchup between AJ Styles and Luke Harper after they so-called had the tie last week on SmackDown, which it really wasn't a tie. If you watch it back, really Luke Harper won. But we're gonna have the rematch between we're gonna have the actual match, Styles versus Harper. The winner actually goes on to main event WrestleMania against Bray Wyatt. So that should be pretty interesting as well. So I'm actually pretty interested in watching SmackDown for a couple of reasons. And let's see if SmackDown can be better than Raw. Okay, so we had SmackDown itself. And we had Tom Phillips, JBL, Mauro Ranallo, and David Otunga on commentary for this show. I was very surprised to see Tom Phillips doing commentary, because I don't know if you guys have heard, but he's been very naughty as of late. He recently was dating a girl, and he messaged her that he was gonna fuckface her, and he was already engaged and everything. And he said that he has like an interaction, and he pretty much was being a douche, and he still has a job at the company. So that kind of shows that he's in a really good place with the company if he's still around. But then again, I could say that it really didn't have anything to do with WWE, so why would they fire him for it? But that's a story for another day. So Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan are backstage watching the Battle Royal, trying to figure out who won. And notice how they're not watching it in the camera angle when it actually shows them getting eliminated, because we know it's pretty obvious that Luke Harper really won, but whatever. AJ Styles comes up and says, that you should just cancel this match because it's clear that I won. And we should just cancel the match, and I should just go main event WrestleMania just like I'm supposed to anyways. But then they say, no, we're gonna have this match tonight. We want to have a fair winner. And then he starts making fun of Luke Harper, saying that it looks like that he hasn't showered. And in fact, when was the last time he did have a shower? And he keeps insulting him. And Luke Harper's standing directly behind him, so McMahon and Bryan continuously have him make fun of him. And then when he turns around, you see that Luke Harper's there, and he's like, "Ooh." And then Luke Harper, and then he walks away. And then Luke Harper says to McMahon and Bryan, "Thank you." And McMahon and Bryan talk about how Luke Harper's unstable. And I thought it was actually a pretty good backstage segment. So I liked it. It was good. It was a nice way to set up for the match. So then we had Miz TV with John Cena, and the Miz comes out, and the Miz and Maurice comes out, and the Miz introduces John Cena, and then John Cena comes out, and he's about to say something, but the Miz wants his mic cut off, so that way he can get everything out that he wants to say to Cena before he interrupts him, and he talks about how John Cena, he hasn't been in the spot that he wanted to be in for John Cena. He said he's been waiting 10 years to say all this stuff to Cena. And he says, "No, you're going to say that it's my fault." But no, it's not. He mentions about the fact that it's John Cena's fault. Because of the fact that John Cena always played politics. He always manipulated the system. Which I love that he said this. He talks about how John Cena knows the right strings to pull, and he knows how to play the right system. It's just like in the job where the one of the guys gets along really well with one of the bosses, and then there's that other guy like me who's constantly there, constantly busting his ass, who has way more talented, and he gets nothing out of it. And the Miz talks about how that same thing happened to him because 10 years ago, him and John Cena main evented WrestleMania, and he beat John Cena in the main event, and he validated himself, and he felt great about it. He felt like he put himself in the history books. But then 2 weeks later, John Cena manipulated the system and erased that win, which is kind of true. And now every time WrestleMania comes around, he doesn't even come close to being in the main event. And he even talked about how the very next year he ended up tangling up with The Rock at WrestleMania. And while he was doing nothing, he even talked about how him and The Rock took his spotlight that year. And then he continues. He talks about how John Cena, has his fans that hate him and has his fans that love him, and the fans that love him will do anything that John Cena does. They'll buy all his merchandise and they worship the ground that John Cena walks on. And he talks about how John Cena even manipulated, even if it looks like that he's gonna put over like a new stove, he always has to get that win back, which is pretty much, he doesn't say it exactly like that, but that's pretty much what he says. He talks about how he manipulated statistics because now he's a 16-time world champion. He's trying to make it sound like he's the greatest of all time. But we know the real greatest of all time is Ric Flair. And he does Ric Flair's woo, but he does a pretty terrible woo. He talks about how he was here. The Miz was here on SmackDown trying to make it watchable. He said he was here week after week, and he was also doing movie appearances. While John Cena, when he got, he talked about how The Rock was the one that went Hollywood, and he was here all the time. John Cena, though, with the second that he got a call from Hollywood, he jumped on it, and he started it with The Weeknd. Then he did it for 6 months. The Miz even goes on to continue saying that John Cena's now gone Hollywood, but he's also trying to stay here in WWE to make it seem like he still cares about this. Then he talks about how John Cena's been taking opportunities away from the Miz, and he says that that's why he took. He just said that he took it away, his opportunity at Elimination Chamber to become the WWE champion, and then his opportunity last week in the Battle Royal. to fight for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. So he said that's why he took away his opportunity last week. And he said, though, that if he continues taking his opportunities, it's going to be nowhere near to the opportunities that Cena's taken away from The Miz for the past 10 years. And then that was it. He let Cena finally talk. And John Cena says, all right, I can finally talk now. And he says, 10 years aggression. You had 10 years to say everything you wanted to say to me, and you just rehashed everything that people have been saying to me all along. Do you blame me that I'm not, that for the reason you're not ahead and for the reason you didn't get ahead in the company. But then he talks about how it's the Miz is the reason that he's not ahead in this company because the Miz doesn't have an identity. He talks about how when how he came in as a reality movie star, trashing The Rock, and then eventually he tried to become. He came in and tried to act like Chris Jericho, and then he said that he stole Ric Flair's finishing move, and now you're stealing the move set of Daniel Bryan and trying to live off his legacy. But he doesn't. But the Miz doesn't know exactly who he is. He said that he's a guy playing a guy. He's a man playing a man in wearing another man's suit. And Cena talks about how he's been true to himself, and all these other Hall of Famers have known who they are, and the reason why the people in this, the only way that the people nowadays in the wrestling business are able to be successful is because of the fact that they feel like they're being overlooked, so they blame it on guys like me, and then he goes on to talk about how John Cena, pretty much the same. The Miz pretty much addressed everything that AJ Styles says that he does, so he just pretty much ripped it off of him. And then he talks about how he doesn't feel like that the Miz really took away an opportunity for him because he knows eventually down the line he will get another opportunity to become WWE Champion. And then he says that he said that if he really was playing politics, he wouldn't be looking across the wind from the Miz. He would be looking across the wind from the Undertaker, which I love that he said that, which kind of disappointed me a little bit because I did want to see John Cena versus Undertaker at WrestleMania, so that kind of made me disappointed. But he's and then he talks about how the Miz to give the Miz advice to if you're gonna say something to him, say something original. But he says eventually he's not. You may not be the Undertaker, but you are going to be a dead man. And then Cena goes to leave. And then Maurice says that Maurice grabs the mic and says, "You don't get to leave until we tell you you get to leave." And she says that John Cena has a big ego. His ego overtakes everything. And he says that's why the Miz hasn't been as successful, and that's why a lot of other superstars haven't been successful. And then she slaps the dog crap out of Cena, and then Cena's like, "You're gonna regret doing that." And then he brings out Nikki Bella, and this causes the Miz and Maurice to take off. And Nikki Bella gets on the mic and says that that if you mess with her, man, then she's going to slap her around like a bitch. And then Cena and Nikki celebrate together. They kiss. And it was good. It was actually kind of like the first time they really have been together on TV. And this is the first angle they're both going to be a part of. So that was nice. I love this opening segment. I love mainly the stuff between John Cena and The Miz. I love everything that The Miz said. And I thought it was great. This was fantastic. And obviously we are going to get that mixed tag match at WrestleMania. I still don't really have much of an interest in seeing that match. But they did do enough to want. They actually did more for me to actually just want to see a one-on-one match between John Cena and The Miz. That's the match I want to see. I don't. And I have a feeling that The Miz is going to get buried at WrestleMania. He'll lose, and then he'll go right down the bottom of the ranks. So that would suck. But overall, I thought the opening segment was really good. It was awesome. And then we had the Black History Month video package. It pretty much shows a quote that Oprah Winfrey said. Because the WWE, like I said, pretends they care about Black History Month. And then we have the first actual match on the show. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match. Becky Lynch versus Mickie James. I thought this was a good match here. They both start chain wrestling each other, and then Mickie James dominates the first half of the matchup, and she just really takes it to Becky Lynch. She toe holds Becky Lynch into the second turnbuckle, and then she hits the Mick DDT for and gets the first fall, and then Mickie James continues dominating, but just being a little bit too cocky, so she goes to go up on the top rope, but Becky Lynch moves out of the way, rolls her up, and gets the second fall. So then it's tied 1-1, and Becky Lynch hits a Beck Exploder, and then eventually Alexa Bliss comes out, and Becky Lynch is about to win with the belly to back suplex, but Alexa Bliss has the referee distracted, so Becky Lynch is upset about this, and then Mickie James goes to hit her, but Becky Lynch ducks, and she accidentally takes out Alexa Bliss. And Becky Lynch goes to hit a roll up. Mickie James hits one of her own, but Becky Lynch is able to kick out, and then she gets Mickie into the disarmer, and Mickie James ends up tapping out, and Becky Lynch wins. And I thought this was fine. I thought it was good. I actually like this. I feel like they're gonna set up some sort of like triple threat match for the SmackDown Women's Title at Mania, which I'd be absolutely fine with. Then Luke Harper's backstage, and he talks about how Bray Wyatt, he now has an eye for evil, and he sees pure evil in Bray Wyatt, and he says that he's gonna go on to main event WrestleMania and take the WWE Championship from him. And so I thought it was a good promo. I thought he cut a really good promo. And then Bray Wyatt's backstage, and he responds by saying that no matter who faces him at WrestleMania, he's going to destroy them. And he says that no one's going to be taking the Holy Grail from him, which is the WWE title. And then he says that the only brother that it really is his brother is his blood brother, Randy Orton. There's more with that later, though. I thought it was a good promo by Wyatt. And then Alexa Bliss gets interviewed, and she gets asked what she thinks about Becky Lynch winning her 2 out of 3 falls match. And Alexa Bliss gets insulted that she's the first ever 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion in WWE history, and that's the question that she asked. So she wants her to ask how it feels to be a 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion. And so she goes to ask that question, and Alexa Bliss cuts her off. And Alexa Bliss answers by saying that she feels like it was a very emotional one. She feels like it was a 2-step. It was a multiple-step effort. And she says that, it was my athletic ability that brought me this title, and it was also Naomi's knee injury that brought me this title, her title. And then Natalya comes up and congratulates her, saying that Tato on becoming the 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion, and says that they're both winners, and they're both championship caliber contenders. And she says, "Oh, I'm just kidding." And then she says, "But I am going to be coming for that SmackDown Women's title." And that was about it. And she kind of laughs like she's an evil witch. I thought it was good. So I don't know if they're setting up for the SmackDown Women's title, because they can't do Natalya versus Alexa Bliss because they're both heels, and you can't really turn anybody face or heel. You can't really turn Natalya here because she's, after all the stuff she was saying about Nikki Bella, she's kind of too far into the heel side to really turn her back to a baby face. So I'm thinking maybe like a fatal 4-way match for the SmackDown Women's title between Becky Lynch, Mickie James, Alexa Bliss, and Natalya. And you can even have Natalya maybe play the tweener factor, where she kind of goes after the 2 heels as well. But I don't really know what they can do for the SmackDown Women's title picture. It's up in the air at this point. And then AJ Styles gets interviewed, and he said that this match shouldn't even be happening anyways, because he clearly won the Battle Royal, but he says he's going to defeat that freak, Luke Harper. It's a good promo. And then we had the next match. It was a WWE Championship #1 contenders match. Luke Harper versus AJ Styles. I thought this was a really good match. Luke Harper hits a wicked dropkick on Styles, so this causes Styles to cower it away. But Luke Harper chases after him, and he tosses Styles into the barricade, tosses him into the steel steps, and he goes to go after him again, but Styles kicks him in the leg, and then he hits a Pele kick while he's on the apron, and Styles works over the injured leg of Harper for a little while, but then eventually Luke Harper starts to make a comeback, and he just beats the crap out of AJ Styles, really. He hits a 6 senton over the ropes. He hits a torpe suicida on the outside. He hits a sick sit out power bomb, but Styles kicks out of it. And then he hits a big boot on Styles. Styles kicks out of that. And then eventually he hits a dragon suplex on Styles. Styles kicks out of that. And then eventually Styles gets the upper hand. He hits an insecurity while he's in the apron. And then he hits the phenomenal forearm. Covers him. Harper gets his foot on the ropes, but Styles ends up taking it off, and he gets the 3 count. So AJ Styles wins the matchup, and he's going to go on to face Bray Wyatt for the WWE title. However, Shane McMahon comes out and says, no, we want to have this to be a fair win. This is the chance to go to WrestleMania. We don't want any controversy. So he restarts the match, and AJ Styles gets upset about it. So Luke Harper beats the crap out of Styles some more, and they get under the outside, and AJ Styles is arguing with Shane McMahon about it, and then Harper goes to super kick Styles, but he accidentally super kicks Shane McMahon. Styles throws him headfirst into the steel post and then hits a springboard 450 splash and covers Harper and wins. So AJ Styles, and they don't reverse it this time. AJ Styles wins, and he's going to be going on to face Bray Wyatt for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. I thought this was weird. Like, I'm happy because AJ Styles is going to be going on to the main event at WrestleMania, but it doesn't make any sense. Because Luke Harper, they've been building up a storyline between Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt, and there's more story there to go with that match instead of, AJ Styles and Bray Wyatt, and what they do later on in the night makes more sense. So I don't get it. I don't get why they went with AJ Styles, in a sense. It was really weird. It's like the company's not really bought on Luke Harper. I mean, really, in all reality, Luke Harper should be facing Bray Wyatt. He won the Battle Royal last week, so it was really weird. And this was I don't know what they're setting up or what, but whatever. And then John Cena and Nikki Bella get interviewed, and before they can really say anything, Carmella and James Ellsworth comes up, and Carmella makes fun of her, and Nikki Bella says, "What do you think so funny?" And Carmella tells James Ellsworth not to talk to her like that. And James Ellsworth says not to talk to her like that. She says that they're all phonies. Nikki Bella, even though I hate James Ellsworth, he had a good line when he said that Nikki Bella's all fake, is all phony, referring to her breasts and stuff. And then Cena challenges them both to a mixed tag, which they both accept. So it's going to be a mixed tag next week between Cena and Nikki versus Carmella and James Ellsworth, which is going to be terrible. And, I expect that to be a squash. And then AJ Styles is backstage, and Daniel Bryan comes up and congratulates him on becoming the number 1 contender. So then Styles walks off, and Styles says, I don't need that. And he says that, Bray Wyatt's going to be out there doing an invocation later. Maybe I'll come and show up there. So I thought that was good. And the next match was Dean Ambrose versus Kurt Hawkins. The match never happens. Dean Ambrose immediately goes in the ring and lays him out with the dirty deeds. And Dean Ambrose says that he's learned a lot throughout his life. But the one thing he's learned is that when somebody pushes you, you have to push back. So he calls out Baron Corbin and challenges him to a fight. And then Baron Corbin comes up on the screen. And he says that he's not going to fight Dean Ambrose on his terms. He fights on his terms. And he says that Dean Ambrose cost him the WWE Championship, so he says that he's not going to stop until he's left laying. And he says and Dean Ambrose says that you shouldn't start a fight that you can't finish, and you're not going to be able to finish this. And Corbin says that him and Ambrose have a lot in common. They both will do anything it takes to win. They both love pain, and then that was about it. And Dean Ambrose even made a joke where he says that his tattoos look worse on screen than they do in real life. And I like this. This was a good promo, good segment here. And I'm actually and I actually am pretty interested in a Dean Ambrose Baron Corbin feud. So I can't wait to see. Obviously, I think they're going to end up putting the Intercontinental Championship eventually on the Baron Corbin, which I'd be fine with. And then Neville's backstage. This was pretty much the 205 live plug. And he pretty much says that the fans love Jack Gallagher, but he's going to show why the fans shouldn't love Jack Gallagher. And that was about it. Then we had the final match on the show. It was a chairs match. Dolph Ziggler versus Apollo Crews. This really didn't need to be a chairs match because they really didn't utilize the stipulation. But Apollo Crews attacks Ziggler from behind before the match starts.
He beats the crap out of him. And like I said, you gotta remember, Apollo Crews 2 weeks ago just had his leg crushed in a steel chair. So, you know, he's you gotta remember but he can just magically walk fine. So, but he beats the crap out of Ziggler. He even hits a moonsault on him, and then Ziggler gets the upper hand, beats the crap out of him. Works over the not injured leg, but they're trying to make it seem like it's the injured leg. And Apollo Crews makes a comeback. He hits a moonsault, and then he grabs a chair and he hits an enziguri while Ziggler's holding the chair. But he doesn't kick the chair into his face. He just hits a regular enziguri. I get they were setting up the spot where he does the moonsault with while Ziggler's holding the chair on his ribs. But I didn't really care for this spot because like he could have just put the chair right on him and then just done it anyways. So it's like, why? But anyhow. And then eventually he goes for the gut wrench power bomb, but Ziggler thumbs him in the eyes, drop toe holds him into the top of the chair throat first, and Apollo Crews' throat's all injured. So then Dolph Ziggler drops him balls first on the chair and beats him, and that was it. It was okay. I expect Apollo Crews to be on Smackdown next week, and he's going to be all smiles, and he's going to not have an injured throat. His larynx is not going to be crushed. So, that's what I expect to happen. This was like one of the lowlights of the show. I really just did not care for this all that much. And Ziggler just still didn't come off to me as a heel. I thought he still kind of came off as a babyface, even though he kind of did eventually say, he said he was talking trash to Apollo afterwards, but I still don't think Ziggler just does not feel like a heel. But then we had the main event segment of the show. It was Bray Wyatt's invocation. This was awesome. So Bray Wyatt comes out and he says, so it's going to be AJ Styles I'm facing at WrestleMania. So then it says that it doesn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered if it was Wyatt or Harper because they're mere mortals and he's pretty much not human. So and he says that you've seen what happens when people who are human face off with me. And then he says that Randy Orton's not here tonight, and then Randy Orton pops up on the screen and we see that he's not in the arena. We see that he's in Randy Orton says, you know, you said that you gave me the keys to the kingdom. So we see that he's in Bray Wyatt's compound. And then he says that Sister Abigail was put to rest right below my feet. And then he says that I said months ago, and he says that I'm standing in your world, but it's not mine. And this is when instantly you knew that it was gonna finally happen. Randy Orton was gonna finally stick it to Bray Wyatt. And that's right when he said that line. That's when he knew he was fooling him. And then Randy Orton says, I said all along that if you can't beat him, join him. But then he says that he says something like, but once you join him, you screw him. Because he's saying that he earned Bray Wyatt's trust, or he got the keys to the kingdom. And he talks about how Sister Abigail was put to rest here, or what's left of her, but she was eaten by what's it called? By maggots and worms. But her spirit still was flowing through you. And he says that I even said a while back that if you can't as long as you're the master and I'm the servant, I will pledge my undying allegiance to you. But that pretty soon I'm going to be the master and you're going to be the servant. And he says that he's pretty much going to put Sister Abigail to rest. So he acts like he's going to dig her up, but instead he grabs some lighter fluid, sprays it around the compound, and he tells Bray Wyatt that he's coming to WrestleMania to take the WWE Championship from him. And Bray Wyatt's all upset about this, and pretty much he pretty much sticks lighter fluid, gasoline, and then he lights a match, and he says that Sister Abigail is going to burn in damnation. And he lights the compound on fire and he burns it to the ground. And Bray Wyatt's all upset about this. It's fucking with him. He's even going like this afterwards. And I thought it was awesome. And I think this made sense. You know, it made sense. Like, I was kind of wondering, like, why did he give up his title shot? Well, I think this is why he gave up his title shot. He wanted to destroy Sister Abigail. Because Sister Abigail is Bray Wyatt's power. So now that they've kind of destroyed Sister Abigail, Bray Wyatt doesn't have the power anymore. So I think it made sense. I think that's what we were supposed to take away from this, and I loved it. It was kind of like if you've ever seen Evil Dead, when they burn the spirit that was taking over that girl's body. It was kind of like that reminded me of. And I loved it. And I guess I don't know what. See, this is why. So I'm guessing where they're going with this is, here's what I see either happening. So they're obviously, I think, gonna do a triple threat match between Styles, Orton, and Wyatt, or they're gonna take Styles out of the match and say you can face the winner, between Orton and Wyatt, and then that can be how the Styles Shane McMahon match gets set up, or Styles can get his title shot on SmackDown, and Wyatt can retain, and then that can be how Wyatt versus Orton happens. But I actually kind of interested to see what's going to happen with Bray Wyatt now. Now he's lost Sister Abigail, so I expect some sort of promo where he's going to be all upset. He's doubted himself, but he says that, you took away my power, but no, I have a new power. I got vengeance. I would like to see some sort of promo too where Randy Orton kind of explains everything that he was doing, why he joined the Wyatt family. That would be awesome. But yeah, I thought this was one hell of a segment. And now that Randy Orton has finally turned his back on, it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to do either. They finally went with it full circle. And I thought it was great. And this was like the old Viper Randy Orton. So, yeah, I'm really interested. I'm happy about this. So, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this part of the review. But I was just about to say this video, but I forgot. I still gotta watch Talk Smack and review that. But so let me review Talk Smack, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on SmackDown. Okay, so now we have Talk Smack, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't really pay all that much attention to it this time. I don't know why. I just kind of put it on. I was doing other things. I was on my phone and stuff, so I just didn't really pay all that much attention to Talking Smack. But I kind of got the gist of what they were going with. So we had Renee Young and Daniel Bryan on the panel, and they say they don't know what's going to happen now with the main event of WrestleMania now that Randy Orton announces he does want to go after the title, and that AJ Styles is, since AJ Styles won his match tonight, so it's up in the air. So, Natalya gets interviewed first, and she talks about how she was just kind of coaching Alexa Bliss when she had that backstage altercation, and she talks about how she won her match with integrity when she beat Nikki Bella in the Falls Count Anywhere match. And that was about it. And then American Alpha get interviewed, and Chad Gable actually talked about how they're in his hometown. They were in the state where he won some sort of wrestling medal. So that made me question, why didn't they put them on the show? Because they would have gotten a huge pop. It didn't make any sense. And they talk about how the Usos have been stalking them backstage. It's about the gist of it. And then Shane McMahon invades the panel, and he talks about how him and Bryan have to discuss who the number one contender is. So then AJ Styles comes up and says he should be the number one contender since he beat Luke Harper and he jumped through all these hoops to get this match, and Randy Orton should have to wait behind him. But they talk about how since Randy Orton won the Royal Rumble, that he still has he has a legitimate claim to get that shot. So they said they're going to talk about it, and I like this. I feels like they're definitely setting up the AJ Styles Shane McMahon match, which I still don't want to personally see that match. But it seems like they're trying to make some sense of it where AJ Styles is getting screwed. But it's just a bad utilization of AJ Styles, I still think. But that was pretty much Talking Smack. I thought it was pretty good. And overall, I thought SmackDown was a great show. Let me just kind of take a look at it. We had the great opening Miz TV segment. We had the good women's match between Becky Lynch and Mickie James. The Harper Styles match I thought was great. Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin had a good feud on this show. The chairs match was okay. And Randy Orton finally turning on Bray Wyatt was awesome. It had a lot of nice surprises on it, like AJ Styles winning. Like I said, Randy Orton turning on Bray Wyatt. And like the promo segment with John Cena and The Miz. And I thought SmackDown was a great show. And I'm gonna rate SmackDown probably a 9 out of 10 because there's really only one problem I had with it. That was really that kind of chairs match and the segment backstage. But there's no such thing as a perfect wrestling show. But this was still great. So that's pretty much it, guys. As you can tell, I thought SmackDown was better this week. So that was actually pretty surprised considering that Raw was building up to the pay-per-view in the past 3 weeks. Raw's been better, so I thought Raw was finally up on their game. But SmackDown really upped their game. They threw a lot of curveballs out there. So overall, SmackDown was better. So let's see what's going to be better next week. But that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure to subscribe to my Wrestling Fortune 44 and on the Talkinator channel. And make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. And I'll be back at some point in the future to give you guys another video.